Once a year, there's a wonderful big book sale held. It's one of the largest, I think it is the largest, secondhand charity book sale in the world, held in Edinburgh. I went last year and I popped along this year, intending not to spend very much money. I even went as far as not bringing a bag to carry things in, not a proper book bag. And I got books anyway. Well, it's all in a good cause. So I want to bring you along, let you see a little bit of what it's like, and then I'm going to show you the books that I got. First off, I need to say that the bookshop, in the years I've gone to in the past, sometimes I've even been helping to sell books, has been fairly relaxed, enjoyable, that wonderful time of looking around books. We went this morning early, in the first hour after the sale had started, and I was going to run the whole week, and it was frantic. It was chock-a-block with people, and more than that, it was people who were really keen to buy. And I was looking outside at some fiction books and just getting my bearings, and all of a sudden I got a phone call from my husband inside the church saying, quick, get in here to the art section. There are people buying up quantities of the art catalogues. Someone has just bought £50 worth. So I immediately headed in, and all pretense of having a nice quiet shopping day were gone, and it was a case of getting there quick. And once I am anywhere near books on art history, money is going to change hands, books are going to be bought, and so it was. I find that catalogues for exhibitions are particularly important because they are published for the duration of the exhibition, which is usually maybe 6 months, 9 months, and then they're gone. There's only enough printed for that time and available, and over the years then they get less and less available, and so you suddenly find, as I have been finding in the last few years, that when you go to get an exhibition catalogue, that it is available, but it will be £100, thank you very much, or more than that. And you genuinely know that there are very, very few in print. And this is second-hand copies, and it very much is a case of buy it. If you're at all interested in an exhibition, it's a good idea to buy the catalogue. I just recently went to an exhibition in London, and when I saw the catalogue price, I kind of quailed. But I thought, buy it now or else it will be gone. It's just very much what you have to do. So I had a good look around the art section, and we bought some books. We then went for a quick lunch around the corner in a little cafe, which is very, very nice. And I had a quick look through my books. It's aesthetics more, I think. All words. So, the words that are interesting to me. And pioneers of modern graphic design. Large, well illustrated. Art and fun. For looking. Lots of ideas. Oh. This is an uncorrected proof.
Not for distribution
or resale. It has been redistributed and resold. I didn't see that when I bought it. That explains why there are no pictures in it. Okay. Quite a picturesque little cafe. I was absolutely delighted with what I had to eat. It refreshed me enough to go back into the fray. I had a nice little eggs benedict with spinach and mushrooms, and I treated myself to a little glass of rosé wine, and that was purely because I saw a lady sitting down having a lovely chat and a little chilled glasses of white wine, and I was influenced. So lovely lunch, back to the fray, back to looking through everything, and this time I was mostly outdoors where the golden sunshine was, and it was actually warm enough to be in short sleeves, which is the first time pretty much this year. Now, there could be ordered ways of showing you the books. I could categorise them, I could give you statistics, but that would not give you the thrill of the chase, the sense of what is coming next. So I've literally piled them up just out of camera shot here, and I'm going to lift whatever's next and tell you the story about it and how it came into my little paws today. So let's go. First book, Virginia Woolf, The Common Reader, Volume 2. Last time I was at the book sale, I was asking if they had this book. They didn't. I asked the same lady again today. She said if it was, it would be in a particular section. I went round to the section. She was there and she said, oh, what a pity we don't have any. And I said, if you lift your hand, what do you have your hand on? And she literally had her hand on this book, The Common Reader. Obviously lots of Virginia Woolf was there, but this I wanted because there are her essays where she's written and reviewed other people's writing, and she's particularly good at that. I knew she had a good reputation for that. I've read one of the stories. It was not a story, but it's speaking to the case of the Journal to Stella, which is, let me see, Swift's Journal to Stella review, and it's lively, it's interesting to read in itself, but unfortunately what I've realised about this is that she's reviewing books that are older, and so that the books are older, so I have to read the older books to understand what she's saying about them, if you know what I mean. There's a slight element of age and history in it all, but that's going to be good. And she's readable on their own, even if you hadn't read the original book. She writes so well. Now, have you heard of William Scott? Probably not. Not particularly famous at the moment. His pictures are lots of almost abstractions, but when you actually see the pictures in this book, they are the sort of pans hanging on his wall, and there's a real still life sense about it, but they're almost treated as abstract designs. So I love this book. I feel it's one that's not so easy to get, and it's from his exhibition in the Tate Gallery in 1972. So I'm delighted to get that. William Scott hails from Northern Ireland, like myself, and therefore there's a little tie there, but I just love the graphic style of his art. Okay, next book. This is A Scarlet Pimpernel. Did you see it? Now you see it, now you don't. They seek him here, they seek him there. This is by Baroness Orczy. They are a series of older books. I think this would be tricky to find in print because just a few of her stories are in print. But this one is El Dorado, A Story of the Scarlet Pimpernel, which I don't think I've read. Lovely little red book, lovely old style. And of course it's set during the French Revolution, and the Scarlet Pimpernel is the cover name of an Englishman who rescues the French nobility who are about to be taken to the guillotine, and does it in secret and covers up and has lots of identities to risk his life to do that. So it's a kind of thriller. And Dorothy Sayers. I read one of her books, or the Lord Peter Wimsey books, for the first time this year and loved it so much. This is 3 now: Strong Poison, Murder Must Advertise, and The Nine Tailors. So I look forward very much to reading these. I like her style. We're in art history now. Big time. Classic book, The Story of Art by Gombrich. I had to get this because I'm currently struggling to read The Story of Art Without Men by Katie Hessel, and it's obviously kind of based on this. She says that, and people then obviously say to me, well, how do you compare her book to his? Well, I've looked at it for, if you look at it for even a few minutes, you can see that there is a wealth of knowledge, history, society in how this is written, and the same thing does not quite come across in Katie Hessel's book. I think there's a more of a sense of strong scholarship around it, but I need to read this to properly critique her book. back after a little break just to take clear some memory on my camera. Now we've got about 7 books left to cover, so let's crack on with that. This book, I don't think anybody is going to have got on the other end of the screen, and that's because I discovered that, or my husband rather discovered, this is an uncorrected proof copy, so you won't have this exact one. I only paid £2 for it, so I'm not crying into my beer. Dennis Dutton, The Art Instinct, which is really about why people make art, and he's basing it on a kind of anthropological background and belief of that. Professor Dennis Dutton teaches philosophy of art at the University of Canterbury, New Zealand, well known as a founder and editor of the highly respected web publication Art and Letters Daily. So there we go. It was due to be coming out on the 12th of February 2009, so it's well and truly published now, and this has no pictures but is scheduled to have 4 pages of a colour plate section, so I'm not really missing too many pictures by just having the words. And I glimpsed it, thought I liked it, and I must say that the advantage of this is that the text size is much bigger. And sometimes now I tend to put on a pair of reading glasses specifically to read, but this is extremely large print, so I will not have to do that. It will be comfy to read. Next, from my art foragings, Christian Art in the British Museum by Rowena Loverance. And although it says Christian art, it covers the world, it's very wide, it covers all different ages, and I think it's going to be something well worth having as a sort of reference book. Less of a book to sit down and read from page 1 all the way through, but to dip and dive into and refer to for particular times that I want to. The next book, I must admit, is probably one of the best I got today. It's the best because it's about graphic art. It's not just myself. I know several other people who will really enjoy having a look at it. And here we go. Pioneers of Modern Graphic Design, A Complete History. How about that for a claim? Bright orange book written by Jeremy Ainsley. And as you can see, it's printed. The previous one, a couple ago rather, that was the proof, was handwritten. Slightly different finish, but this is wonderful. Big, glossy, and if you don't see something you like, then you don't like graphics, is fair to say. I happened to see a page that was the work of Saul Bass, who I particularly like, and that particular page referred to a film which is The Man with the Golden Arm, starring Frank Sinatra, a black and white movie, and he famously did the graphics, which were, let me just show you here, you'll see what I mean. Very iconic style, very new. But I really want to recommend the film. I caught it myself on a streaming for free a couple of years ago and was amazed by it. Frank Sinatra's in it, but it's proper acting. It's not a hidden musical where the musical talent will suddenly start singing. He plays the part of somebody who's trying to recover from drug addiction, and he has a golden arm in a couple of senses, and one of them is that he has learnt to drum and he's hoping to start a new career, fresh out of prison, making a new way, going clean. But he also has a golden arm in the sense that he is known for being really good at dealing cards, and the local mafia people are wanting him to be the dealer for a really long series of games in which a lot of money is going to be bet as well. It's a fantastic film for showing what it's like to be kind of poor and trying to make ends meet in a particular part of America at a particular time, sort of 1950s possibly, because it was black and white. There's a wonderful scene. He has a girlfriend in it, and she's living in this really tiny little room, and you can see her tights, her nylons hanging up drying, and I just was struck by that detail, how wonderful wonderfully observed it was. It felt like a room that a young woman was living in, and that wee tiny detail just caught my eye. But the whole film is excellent, and it's tense, and it's got a really driving beat rhythm to it because it's about a guy who's a drummer as well. So absolutely wonderful. Don't miss it. The Man with the Golden Arm. The next book is probably not of interest to lots of people. Kate Turabian, and it's a manual for writers of term papers, theses and dissertations, and does what it says in the tin. Lots of ways of explaining how things should be laid out and what words should be typed or used as symbols. For example, if you're saying percent, do you write the words or do you use a symbol? So forth like that. General grammar things. Again, very much a reference book. Not one to sit down and read from A to Z unless you want to be asleep pretty quickly. And a book which I held up, took a photograph of, and then thought, I have to get it. And it's this one. And it's Beyond the Fringe, the complete Beyond the Fringe. These are very famous 1960s comedians. I would say alternative comedians, but in those days they probably didn't have them. And they were satirical, British. And this was actually a show that was done in Edinburgh as part of the Fringe. And because of this, these graduates who are all from Oxford and Cambridge ended up becoming leading figures in the comedy and political comedy world. So you have Alan Bennett, who went on to be a well-known playwright, writer, Peter Cook, Jonathan Miller, Dudley Moore, and the Peter Cook and Dudley Moore, these two got their own television show, not only but also, which is very good if you happen to see any things of it. But this is their entire script, which I think radically included things like Macmillan, the then Prime Minister, being ridiculed on stage and being acted by one of the characters, and it was poking fun at the whole idea of Britishness and English. Here's one I've just seen. There's a very famous sketch, you'll find little bits of this on YouTube, where it's supposed to be in World War II, and let's see if they got there. Where one of the officers is speaking to the others in the RAF and says, they're talking about how the war is going. We are two down and the ball's in the enemy court. War is a psychological thing, Perkins. Rather like a game of football. You know how in a game of football 10 men often play better than 11? Yes, sir. Perkins, we are asking you to be that one man. I want you to lay down your life, Perkins. We need a futile gesture at the stage. It will raise the whole tone of the war. Get up in a crate, Perkins. Pop over to Bremen. Take a shifty. Don't come back. Goodbye, Perkins. I wish I was going too. The reply is, goodbye, sir. Or is it au revoir? No, Perkins. It's fun. You've probably heard that referred to and seen the wee clip if you live in the UK, anywhere at any time. Part of the review also is music, which there is music notation as well, so you get to see what the music is like. And I wanted to actually read the complete, because it's referred to so often as a watershed event in the British comedy scene. And you, as I say, you see little tiny clips, you hear little words. This is the whole script. This is what was done, what was presented. So although it's going to be very out of time, it is key for what happened next in comedy. And I love that. Now, we've got something nobody else is going to be probably interested in. Writing the Field Recording Sound, Word, Environment, edited by Stephen Benson and Will Montgomery. And it's about the part of sound in our world. And yeah, I will bore you no more. Finally, Barchester Towers by Anthony Trollope. Now, there's a particular reason for getting this, apart from the fact it's fabulous, gorgeous, as pretty much as you would find in a brand new bookstore. as a classic, but also because at the moment it's being read to us all by Steve Donahue over at his channel. He reads a chapter a day. I've been listening along, and now I can actually look along as well, read along, and I have find it so interesting, this idea of reading along on a video, because sometimes I have gone to listen to professionally produced recordings read by a really good British actor of this if I want to hear what the next chapter is and Steve hasn't yet got around to saying it. And I just find it really cool and unengaging. Whereas when someone is reading it to you and then looks up with a smile and a laugh and then goes back to it again, it's like having a friend reading it to you.
Purposely ignoring the Archdeacon's hitherto unlimited dominion over the Archdiocese at large. Fireworks had begun. He was aware that his lordship depended greatly on the assistance which Dr. Grantley would be able to give him in that portion of his diocese. He then thrust out his hand and, grasping that of his new foe, bedewed it unmercifully. Because we've already been told that Mr. Slope has a very wet handshake. He bedewed it unmercifully. Dr. Grantley, in return, bowed, looked stiff, contracted his eyebrows, and wiped his hand with his pocket handkerchief. Nothing abashed, Mr. Slope then noticed.
And also you get little interjections, little summaries for what's happened in the previous chapter. And so I recommend that to you if you're interested. Steve Donahue reading through Barchester Towers chapter at a time. And I'm aware that other people have done this on Booktube as well, and something to have a look at. Something I want to do myself. Not quite sure what's left because lots of good books have been covered. Obviously I need to pick a book that is out of copyright and have a go. So let's see. Are there any books that you haven't heard read that you would enjoy? Drop a comment, let me know. So those are my books I have got, and I'm looking forward to reading them. I hope you've enjoyed hearing about them. And that's my big book haul. That's the most I'm probably going to buy for quite a wee while now. I need to pull in my spending horns and so on. But if you are in Edinburgh in May, do come along to the book sale and bring a large book bag, unlike myself, and take your original budget of what you expect to spend and double it. And come away with enough reading books to keep you going for months and months and months and months and months, as I have. Bye for now.